From last week, we worked out on Sunday, worked out on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, off Thursday, off Saturday, back to work on Sunday, off yesterday, and then back to work today. So looking forward to this week's preparation. Players' enthusiasm's been good. Practices have been good. We have both quarterbacks that are healthy and practicing, getting an adequate and equal reps. We'll make a game time decision on which quarterback that we end up playing, one that we feels like gives us the best chance to win based on this week's practice. Be fair to both players. Injuries were in good shape, so we're just looking forward to getting out there today and practicing.
Mike, you need the sixth win. You've got to win Saturday to get that sixth win and make a bowl. How important is it just to make a bowl, either for tradition to keep the streak alive, for the extra practices, for team morale? How important would it be to make a bowl?
Well, I think it's important for practice and obviously for the players to win another game.
What have you found in over the last 8-9 years? Of that 15 practices extra you get, how beneficial has that been to either next season's development or young players' development or any of those things?
Well, we get 11 for us, and there's not as much long-term development that goes on for us. It's been more game planning, but it's certainly good to get we get 15 minutes or so of work with the young players.
At your age, 47, now this will be your 24th Bedlam, which means you've been involved in Bedlam more than half your life. Is it just a date on the calendar to you, or is it special or super special? How do you define that date for you?
Well, for me, it's a game of preparation that doesn't really change for me during the week. I think it's obviously a big game to the people in this state. Without pro football being there, and you either wear orange or red during the week, and I'm guessing out there in the business world, I've not ever been in the business world, but for me, we have to prepare and get ready and go play a game just like we have every other year that we've played them.
What about for you, though? I mean, is it with Cale on the other side and your history against OU?
Honestly, a lot of times I forget that he's even over there. It's no different than the other guys that I compete against now that have ties to our staff that are coaching for other teams. You're so involved with your preparation, what you're doing, that you, for the most part, even forget that they're over there.
More vivid memory of details of games you played in against those guys or coached in, or is it just game to game as to whether you remember a lot of it?
Yeah, just game to game. I mean, I guess I think about a lot of games, but not necessarily any one of those more than others.
Now, you have a lot of guys who are going to be playing in their first Bedlam. What do you remember about your first one? Is there more nerves for a game like this, or?
I don't think so. I think they play in big games now. They've played in big games. They're on national TV. They play teams that are highly ranked. I think because of the exposure that goes on before games now, unlike what it used to be years ago, that there's not really nerves involved in what maybe before all the coverage and exposure college football has.
How is that different from what you remember when you were a freshman?
Honestly, don't remember.
Mike, if you make the decision this week at some point that Dax gives you the best chance to win, and you guys go with Dax, how difficult of a decision is that, considering you pulled the red shirt off Mason for one game?
I would never talk about personnel decisions that we make publicly.
When you watched the Kansas-Oklahoma video, did you think you were seeing a superhuman effort by P. Ryan, or did you think, were you more condemning of Kansas's?
I think he's a really good back. I've said this, and I'll say it again. I think he's very mature. He's very strong. He runs low to the ground. He gets his pads down. He runs through tackles, and his yards after contact is good. He's poorly coached.
Can you remember ever contending with a back who's heavier, bigger than any of the linebackers you'll rotate Saturday?
I can't remember how big some of those backs were that we played against Texas years ago. Didn't they have some big backs? I can't remember.
Henry Melton was a back at one time, right? But
I mean, he's a big physical back, and we'll really need to tackle and get him down in space and wrap him up. You know, it's obvious in the last few games or however many he's run through tackles. He's punished defenders that he's competed against.
Mike, in the recruitment of Mason Rudolph, did Mike Yursich really take the lead on that? Was he the guy who identified to you and the rest of the staff, hey, this is someone we want?
No.
How did it come together then?
We'll never talk about recruiting process, personnel decisions, or injuries.
Can you comment on Agba and his progress throughout the season so far?
Oh, he's doing great. Matured, grown up. He's come in as a guy that's gotten really big, committed to the game, playing hard. He's really done a nice job and been a good football player for us, been a good leader. He's been injured a little bit during the season, fought through pain and competed, and really a bright spot for us.
Has he maybe surprised a little bit based on expectations before the season?
Is he surprised?
Has he surprised you?
Well, we thought he was going to be a good player, but you never know. I mean, he's a young player. I believe he's just a sophomore. Is that correct? So he didn't have a lot of experience in key situations, so it's hard to really predict what they'll do.
And obviously, his development has been an important key to your defense, where you had a lot of young guys and you needed some people to step up.
No question. Yeah, and we're fairly mature up front, but there's a difference when he's in there. He's been a little bit more dominant than what the guys have come in behind him.
Mike, is there a scenario Saturday, other than injury, by which you might use both quarterbacks?
Could, very well could.
Is it more difficult when they're both sort of similar players? I mean, if JW's one, you got a different offense you can run, but when you got two pocket passers, is it less likely that you do something like that? When they're similar in makeup?
No, could be more likely.
You guys, being a big underdog, you probably don't look at it that way, obviously, as the head coach here. But does Mason give you guys like a puncher's chance? Is that a fair way of saying it? That when you got a quarterback who can make plays like that, like he did at Baylor, that when you're an underdog, you have an opportunity to maybe score some long runs?
I'm not going to discuss who gives us the best chance to win and or why.
We talk about what's best for the program.
Why do we huddle up then? Why don't we just tell them our plays?
No, okay, go.
I mean, I just don't see any value in me talking about strategy, why or why not one player's better than the other.
Skill-wise, skill position-wise, what he can do, some of the things he can do, certainly were impressive in Waco. You'd agree with that?
What?
Accuracy, throwing the ball deep, that kind of thing.
Dak's been pretty good at that too, hasn't he?
Well, not the accuracy part.
Okay. That's why I don't want to talk about personnel decisions, because you and I won't agree.
Well,
He's pretty accurate throwing deep balls.
Dax is, yeah.
I thought you said Mason.
No, I did. I'm talking about if, whatever circumstance unfolds, if Mason is the starter.
I'm not clear I understand what you're saying. But I don't want to talk about personnel. We have two quarterbacks that are going to practice. They'll get equal work, and we'll play the guy who gives us the best chance to win at game time based on how they practice this week. I don't know what else to tell you.
So you'll get on the bus to go to Norman undecided.
No, I'm sure I'll know by then. Game time's just a popular thing that people say.
It's been reported that Van Malone is going to coordinate for Chad Morris down at SMU. Is that a finish?
Would never talk about personnel decisions with players or coaches at any time during the season. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I mean,
If he's been hired at SMU.
I would never talk about personnel decisions with a coach or a player during the season.
Mike, you went back and watched the video of the game with Baylor. Were your initial thoughts about how Mason played, were they confirmed, or did you see things differently after that in terms of his performance?
I thought he played fairly well. You talk about different than my post-game comments?
Yeah. I mean, you see different.
No, I thought he played fairly well, made some decisions, made some plays, missed some throws, but thought his poise was good, competed.
He showed maturity there that you didn't know if he had or not because he hadn't played in the game?
I have a hard time saying one way or the other because he's only played in one game.
Mike, you two of your better games this year have been in defeat, but they come against elite teams, Florida State and Baylor. You said Baylor was best you'd played in several weeks, and of course you played really well at Florida State. They give you confidence going to Norman, playing another really good team. But good part of the time when you played really good teams, you've actually played pretty well.
Well, some of the times. I mean, we played other good teams and didn't play very well during the season. But I don't have any question about their ability to practice, prepare, and compete in the game. If that's what you're asking me, I think that they practiced well last week, and their attitude and enthusiasm, things like that, have been really good.
Coach Gundy, the defense seems to have started slow certain times during the season and not gotten off to great starts. Oklahoma's won 48 straight games when they lead at halftime. Are you concerned about the defense coming out and establishing themselves early?
Yes, they need to play well early, and I wish I had an answer for why that's happened. But those are things that we've talked about, and so we'd like for them to play well and start early, so we're not playing catch-up. But on the other side of that is there's been games that on offense we hadn't played very well early either. And so we'd like to start the game. Well, you like to start any game. I mean, we're just kind of talking about things everybody knows. You'd like to start well on both sides of the ball.
Mike, after what P-Line's done the last few weeks, do you have to fight the urge to just load the box and say, you got to throw and beat us? Because obviously you like to mix things up, but do you have to fight the urge that, hey, let's just put 9 guys in the box and make them throw?
It just becomes a numbers game. You got to do what you think's best. I don't think you can do one or the other, and I don't think we're experienced enough to do one or the other. I think you have to play the game and mix it up and try to stay balanced.
Did you and Bosworth ever cross paths at any function or anywhere? Ever revisit?
Excuse me?
You and Brian Bosworth, did you guys ever cross paths anywhere to revisit your exchange when you were a freshman?
The last time I saw him was at nighttime establishments in Oklahoma City, and that was back in the late 80s.
Were y'all cool with each other then?
Oh, yeah, we were fine, yeah. I don't know what mode he was in, Brian or the Boz at that time, so I can't answer that question.
Can you maybe describe how recruiting-wise, when you guys go to Texas, you guys have always had really good success pulling guys out of Texas, and maybe how that has changed, if the dynamic has changed or if it's evolved as TCU has gotten really good, Baylor's gotten really good, elite type good. Texas State has a team now, UTSA has a team now, and Texas A&M, being in the SEC, has kind of opened the door for some of those SEC teams to go into Texas. How's that dynamic kind of changed for you?
I think the recruiting in the state of Texas has gotten more difficult for everybody that's recruiting there based on the things that you've said. I think you're accurate.
How do you adjust, or do you go open up nationally or go to other areas, or still go after the same kind of guys that you were? Or?
Not us. We're not going to national recruit. We make our living right here. And then we have the Kansas area, and we go to Texas and recruit based on numbers. You've heard me say it a million times. If I'm a sales guy selling vacuum cleaners, I can sell a lot more down there because of the population. It gives me a better chance to sell vacuum cleaners. It's the same thing for us. Some people may move that direction, but not Oklahoma State.
I wonder if guys like a certain, I don't know, I don't want to use star rankings because I don't follow them myself, but a certain quality of player who might have come to Oklahoma State or might have come to Oklahoma 5-10 years ago. Now they're looking at other options. Is that what you're saying?
I don't know what Oklahoma's doing.
But no, just speak for yourself, Oklahoma State.
We recruit the same players. We're going to try to evaluate players that we think fit in here in this geographical location with our style of play, the personality we're looking for, all the different things that we feel like is important regardless of stars. Is that what you're asking me?
It's just harder to get those guys now, is what you said earlier, right?
We haven't gotten very many 4- and 5-star guys. Is that what you're asking me? Most of what we get is 3-star guys and 2-star guys, in somebody's opinion. We don't, I mean, I'm not sure I'm following you, but the guys that you may be talking about, we're not necessarily, very seldom have we gotten those guys.
Mike, I know you're not going to talk specifics, but the coaching carousel has cranked up. As a head coach, how much more difficult does it make your job when you realize that guys on your staff, and guys on your staff have been popular targets over the years, could be leaving, and it means you get to go hire another coach, there's recruiting to consider. Talk about the aspects of the coaching carousel and what it does to you.
Well, it's just part of our job, and it's what happens. For whatever reason, over the last 6-7 years, people have wanted to hire guys off of our staff, and it continues to go. I get calls starting about the middle of November all the way up through January on coaches, and usually about 20% of the calls that come in are somewhat accurate. The other ones are just somebody taking a shot in the dark. And, very seldom do I get less than 3 guys on a staff, percentage-wise, that somebody's trying to hire every year. So it's just part of the job. There's nothing, there's guys have a chance to move on in their life and be head coaches or be coordinators, or if they want to take a lateral move to a different school, then that's the way the profession is.
Is recruiting the most frustrating aspect of it because you're trying to get that done and sewed up at the same time?
It's certainly not a good timing aspect for anybody, for the head coach, for the coach that could be leaving, for the prospects who could have potentially been recruited by that same person for 9 months or 12 months or 15 months. So it's just not, the timing issue is not good, but there's not any short-term solution.
How would you describe your, because you've known him forever, your relationship with Bill Blankenship?
I have a good, I don't visit with him a lot. I don't talk to anybody for the most part.
What went down at Tulsa yesterday?
Well, I'm not in favor of seeing any coach lose their job. But my long-term relationship with Bill from a distance is I have a lot of respect for him as a person, a coach, and the way he handles himself. And, it's unfortunate that decisions are made, but somebody felt like it had to be made. I don't know the ins and outs of it.
Going back to recruiting, when you lose a coach, is it a mad scramble to try to get guys to fill in if you lose a defensive line coach, and all of a sudden you got 3 D-line prospects here? You just have to get your other defensive staff together and say, hey,
right,
you got this guy, and try to, is that the way it works?
That's what we do. I don't know what other schools do, but most people try to find a relationship, and 9 out of 10 times it's not going to matter, because ultimately the player's committed here for the right reasons, which could very well be for the school, for some type of degree program, for opportunity to play early, all the different things that you guys read about all the time. But if it's sometimes it could factor in, but the only thing you can do is to get in there and communicate and talk and move forward.
Mike, you are uniquely qualified, more than anybody on that committee, to know who's better, whether TCU or Baylor is better. Do you have any kind of, because you played them both on the road, and there's all this TCU or Baylor in case they tie, and then it goes head-to-head. There's all this debate. It's probably the hottest debate in the whole playoff picture. What did you, if you were to cast the decider, the tiebreaker, who do you vote for?
Well, I think that falls into me, commenting on personnel and coaches and jobs and quarterbacks. It's a no-win situation for me, and we live in a society today. The more you say, the more people shoot holes in you. So you're better off not saying anything. But I have an opinion on it, but I would not want to be on the committee and try to make the decision that they're being faced with this year, which I think is going to happen every year from here on out. I don't know a lot about it, don't pretend to. I just hear what people say about it based on how they're trying to make decisions. I heard somebody say they're actually trying to factor in injuries. Is that true?
The Ohio State.
Well, how do you do that? How do you factor in how good a team would have been with this guy or without this guy, and then try to justify that at the end of the day? So they've got a very difficult task at hand, in my opinion. And both of those teams, in my opinion, could very well be, at this point, the top 3 teams in the country on any given day on a neutral field.
Mike, with some of the inconsistencies we've had on offense, whether it be injuries or young players, has David Glidden maybe been your most consistent guy out there, and what has he brought to the table this year?
Yeah, he's been consistent.
What's been most impressive about his performance?
He's just doing his job.
You seem to be going to Glidden more the deeper the season goes. Is that because he's been productive? Is that because it's been with two different quarterbacks even, so it can't be necessarily a guy really proving in? I mean, is he just playing better? Are the schemes opening up for the slot guy?
I'd say the last two, he's playing good. He's mature, and the schemes seem to fit him. Wideout's hard to really determine that they can get the ball a lot.
Little kid from Mustang, everybody naturally compares him to Cooper. Any similarities there?
There are some, yes. Is he a junior now? So he's got one more year or so. And this has been the first year he's really been able to get a lot of reps and develop.
Were you happy with the changes that were made on the offensive line the last game, moving Veach to tight end?
I thought that Crabtree coming back and his ankle being fairly healthy and allowing us to move Chris down inside helped our team, yes.
Back on TCU Baylor, it's looking pretty good. One of them's got a good chance to make it. How important is it, do you think, that the Big 12 gets at least one team in this first year? Because one conference is going to be left out. How important do you think it is for OSU and the Big 12 to not be the conference that gets left out?
I think it's very important in recruiting.
Coach, do the last two Bedlam losses still frustrate you?
Every loss frustrates me. But the last two that we've had against them have been fairly close right till the end. And so, a loss, whether it's by 1 point or by 50 points, they're hard to take. And they are frustrating.
You think you found a new niche for, well, evidently you do, with Zach Beach and his size and athleticism to play on the edge like that. I don't know if you view him as a viable pass catcher potentially, but it's certainly a third tackle, right?
Zach was recruited here to play tight end, and because of some of the circumstances we had at the offensive line position, we moved him inside, and maybe somewhat unfair to him. He's certainly undersized to be playing in the offensive line in this league, and as I'd mentioned earlier, we're comfortable with the adjustment that we've made at this point. We think it makes us a better football team.
Your offensive line troubles are well documented, Mike, with youth and inexperience. Do you see reinforcements coming?
Sure.
Are you pleased with the young guys, what they could be perhaps as soon as next year?
Well, we don't know. You never really know till they get out there and play, but we have young players that are being developed not only this year, but some guys that are on their practice squads. But we don't know now because they hadn't been out there and been in the action yet.
You eager to see how the junior college situation unfolds on the offensive line, recruiting-wise?
It's a violation for me to talk about that. As much as I love visiting with you on Tuesdays and Mondays, it's illegal for me to talk about that. It really is, because when you say junior college, you specify. Don't ask me. The guys just spent 15 months in here and they combed us through and we were clean. I don't want to get anything now. So, and I've got like 2 minutes and I got a meeting because today's Tuesday. As much as I'd like to stay and chat.
Have you got any word, Mike, as to a more specific expectation on the date for when you guys are going to meet with the NCAA and Indy and get that?
You know what's funny, Bill? They don't tell me anything. They don't. They don't tell me anything. So I can actually say to you, I have no clue. I'm sure somebody knows, but well, Kevin wouldn't tell you the truth, and Gavin looks like he's seen a ghost when he brought it up, so I wouldn't bring them two into it. Forced him to lose his hair.
Is that something that hangs over you? Is that a burden to you as you finalize the class?
The NCAA? No. All you guys have been around forever, and we agree to disagree on a lot of things. They came in and combed this place for 12 months, and that's all they found. What to be having a party? You can write it any way you want. It's my opinion. So, but no, the question's no. It's not a factor.
Mike, one more thing on that, rallying your coaches to fill in when a guy leaves. Was Monken recruited Randolph, I think, and then took the Southern Miss job, and you guys had
He recruited who?
Mason originally.
Oh, Rudolph.
Yeah. and you didn't hire Yersich for a while. How'd you guys fill in around that gap? Was that something you did, or somebody else take over there?
I'm trying to remember my years now. If he started the recruiting with him, you guys probably know more than me.
I'm assuming he did.
I can't remember, but when I've had quarterback coach changes, which we've had 4 or 5 in the last 8-9 years, the guy that came in took over for the guy that left.
You have restrictions on you as a head coach, recruiting wise. When you lose a staffer, are those restrictions lifted? Are you allowed to go on the road or whatever for evaluations? No.
Now it's changed again. You bring up a good point. It's one of the best questions that have come up today. You now can have 10 out all the time, but the head coach can only have so many contacts. So figure that one out. Right. So.
And Mike, I think it was earlier this season in the Monday press conference when we were talking about Brad Lundblade, and you had mentioned when you took off his red shirt, you evaluated it and decided that you were going to play him in every game the rest of the season. How is that different than the quarterback situation currently?
Because you can play multiple guys. A lineman, a receiver, a running back, those guys play multiple. Most people don't play multiple quarterbacks unless they're different or you have a reason to do it. And so we needed the depth in case something ever happened. We needed a guy that could come in and play center that had at least played in a game a little bit compared to, because it's a percentage deal. And that's a good question, but there's percentages that there's somebody out of those 5 that's going to miss a game or 2 during the year. Somebody else has to go play. If it's a guy that's snapping the ball, you want him to have had a little experience before he snaps it there in front of 80,000 people. All right? Okay.